And now, for the week of August 14th, Adobe Photoshop TV is on the air.
Welcome to Adobe Photoshop TV from the National Association of Photoshop Professionals. And here's your hosts, the Photoshop guys, Scott Kelby, Dave Cross, and Matt Plaskowski.
Welcome to another flammable episode of Adobe Photoshop TV, brought to you by the National Association of Photoshop Professionals, the fine folks who bring you Photoshop User Magazine, the greatest magazine in the world.
Wow. That's some nice stuff there.
Thanks. That's like high-tech special effects.
And this week's episode is brought to you in part by Strata, DLO, CDW, Fotilia, Logitech, and iStock Photo. That's how we say it in Canada.
Okay, it's the Canadian pronunciation of it.
Matt, will you properly pronounce it for us? Matt went to the training course how to pronounce their name.
Yes, yes. Welcome to our sponsor, last sponsor. Apparently, they won't sponsor us anymore. Fotolia.
Oh, that's the last we'll hear of Fotolia,
Yes,
because
yeah.
they'll be saying
Fotolia.
Fotolia.
The
What's
important thing is, though, that they'll look at the logo and pronounce it any way they like to and go and buy their
quick,
fine
say something to
products.
save this sponsor. Say something nice about them quick to save them.
Hey, I visited their website. They got a kick-butt website, so
That's
go check
enough.
out at Fotolia.com. You will definitely like it.
Welcome, everybody. For those of you who saw last week's show, you can see we really upped the professionalism this week. My name is Scott Kelby, and joining me from the wonderful country, our friends to the north in Canada, Mr. Dave Cross.
Hello, everyone.
And once again, rocking the house key, it's Matt Plaskowski.
Welcome back, everybody.
All right, hey everybody, we've got a show for you. I always say we've got a great show, but honestly, it's not a very good show this week. I've seen Matt's tip; it's not good. Dave's tip uses like a soccer ball for Americans, a football for Canadians. It's not good. I've got a tip; it's trash. So let's begin the trash. No, I'm kidding. We have a pretty good show. It's
mediocre.
It's not good. That's a bad
Let's just
show.
go to a tip.
Let's just go to a tip.
Dave,
you're tipping.
I'm ready for that said tip. Now, before I start, I must point out that a kind viewer sent in the T-shirt I'm wearing today because they knew my Canadian collection was running low, so they
that is very nice.
crossoverts.com there. It's a really cool website. They make T-shirts, but many of their profits go to help various religious organizations. So it's kind of a nice non-profit sort of thing too. And they happen
just
to
like
make
this show.
cool T-shirts, right? Exactly. So, having said that, let me share with you my tip, which is another take on the old turn your photo into a sketch kind of a thing. So it's just a different way to do it. Very quick and very simple, and it's kind of sketchy. So I'm going to start off by duplicating my background layer,
good.
Command or Control J.
stuff.
As always, I'm just ignoring the man to my right. And I'm going to go and add a smart blur, which at first doesn't appear to do much until you change the quality to high and change the mode to edge only.
So you have
And
to
all
be
of a sudden
smart
you
to
get
use it.
this little effect. And you can change the threshold to whatever amount you want. Again, ignore the
No, this is
man
good.
beside me.
I can't believe I don't use Smart Blur more.
Click OK, and you get this lovely black and white thing. Press Command and Control I for invert, so you get kind of a rough idea of what we want. Now we're going to add a new layer, and I'm going to fill. Now I like using keyboard shortcuts. I'm going to use Shift Delete, which would be Shift Backspace on the PC, just to bring up the fill dialog box. Of course, you could go to the Edit menu too, but I just like to do it this way. And I'm going to pop up this little list. Actually, hold on a second. Let me move this up higher so you can see it. It's a big, long list, because these are the built-in patterns. I want to use a different pattern that's not currently showing under Artist Surfaces. Now, whenever you add new patterns, you're given two choices. Append, which means add them on to the existing list, or just replace. In this case, I'll just replace. I don't have any patterns in there that are special. I can always get them back by resetting my patterns. And I'm going to use this pattern here, which if I pause long enough, the little pop-up thing tells me it's called gauze, apparently, which looks just lovely, wouldn't you say?
It looks like gauze.
It looks like gauze, which is odd considering the name. So I'm going to change the blend mode to lighten. You see what it's done now? I've got this much more of a sketchy, almost maybe perhaps a little embroidered
Looks
kind
a
of
little
look.
gauzy.
It looks a little gauzy. So to finish this off and try and make it even remotely usable, I'm going to select these two layers and press Command or Control G to put them in a group. And the reason I do that is I simply want to be able to play around with the opacity of both layers at the same time. So by lowering the opacity of this little group, the background layer starts to show through a little more, and I start to get a little bit of the color with a little bit of the kind of sketchiness happening. Right. And of course, I just use that one pattern, but you could use any pattern you wanted and play around with different settings and experiment to your heart's content.
Of gauze.
You could use brick, and it wouldn't look anything like this
that,
at all.
Right.
So there you go.
Dave, I got to ask you. How in the world did you come up with that? Are you sitting in your office one day and go, you know, I haven't used Smart Blur enough today?
and I know that Smart Blur makes my photo black and white.
Yeah, that was a new one. Okay. How does that stuff come up?
I don't know. You just, you know,
How does Smart Blur
experimenting and.
I don't understand. Blur.
I know, but it's one of the options in Smart Blur is does this little weird
know.
kind of
It's
tracy
just-
thing, and
It
there you go.
doesn't make sense to me.
That's what you pay me for, is to sit around and just say, I wonder what gauze could do, and I
It's
wonder
the
what I
daily
could do with Smart
Photoshop
Blur.
challenge that we have
Yeah,
in
we
the
do.
office.
At a certain time every day, a buzzer sounds in the office. In fact, I have the
Classic.
sound here. Hold on, I've got the sound. It sounds, and what you have is you have a certain number of minutes to race to this one room. We all have a challenge every day. And here, I'm going to play the sound for you that plays in our offices here.
Oh, gosh.
This is the sound right here. See if you can hear it. You have to turn up the mics there here. That's the sound that sounds in our offices right there.
Now, before we go any further, Dave got some T-shirts from our viewers. Next time, I got some T-shirts from one of our viewers as well, and if I could take some pictures of them, we'll try to put them up right now. But I think Dave should wear one of these.
No.
T-shirts. In fact, I will
Oh,
take
yeah.
pictures of them now.
Matt got all these.
Right into Photoshop TV if you want to see Dave wearing one of these T-shirts next time.
Okay, back with you live. Matt now has a tip, and Matt, show it to us, won't you?
I have a tip.
Dave and I will be completely quiet. Go ahead.
Good luck on that one.
Tip. All right. Well, my tip, I have no idea. Oh, my tip is on using, we're going to add some steam to this photo that you see here.
Whoa.
So we're going to add some coffee cup steam, but don't worry.
Oh, coffee cup steam. That's
Yes.
good.
Okay,
Okay, that's
this,
much
remember,
better.
this is a G-rated
Steam
show.
mode.
Okay,
so.
yeah.
So, but we're going to add some steam, and then later on I'll show you another way that you can use this if you're an outdoor landscape photographer. All right, let us start.
Because I'm always saying, man, what this scene needs is some steam.
Hey.
Wow, is that Yosemite? If I only had some steam, I'd be set.
I'm ignoring the man to my left.
Notice how he keeps shifting his laptop so we can't see over his
Yeah,
shoulder.
no kidding.
So what are you doing there, Brad? What is that?
All right, stop.
Is that the old steam trick?
Stop! All right, create an oval selection. All right, he's looking over. Create an oval selection, and then what you're going to do is go to the select menu. Now I got to do this in like 10 seconds because you guys banter. And go to the select feather, hit it with a 10 pixel feather. Set your foreground color to a medium gray color, and set your background to white. Go to the filter menu on a new layer. Go to the filter menu, go down to render, and choose clouds. Now, deselect, go up to the filter menu again, and go to distort, and distort.
At what point do you use Smart Blur?
No point do I. I'm trying to.
It's right
There we go.
It begins with D.
Did you guys see how I went to noise and I went to everything else but distort? It takes practice to be that bad. There we go. And then go to wave. Now, I'm not going to tell you all the settings I have in here. Just pause the video, look at them, hit OK.
Nice.
Nice, good, good.
And then you
All right,
can.
hold on. What Matt means by that is rewind, stop and freeze it, right? So you can see what he did, because
Yeah, pause. And
Yeah.
There you go.
I'm not telling you the settings. That's nice.
Now go to the filter menu again, and you can just hit wave or press Control or Command F, and that'll wave again. Now what you want to do is change the blend mode from normal. Watch this.
To
watch
steam.
this. To steam. Change it to hard light. Oh, look at that. See what happens here? I'm gonna here. Let's. Oh gosh. Normal, and then we'll go to.
I love this tip. This tip is awesome. I'm sorry, go ahead. This episode sucks. No, good. You're
do
doing
it.
good.
Right.
Switch to the steam blend mode. I hope our editor cut some of this out. Oh, go to Steam. Steam Light.
Can't.
It's a hard light, right? Whew. Here, I'll help you out. Go down one there.
I'm going to go to the cleavage blend mode. Oh, gosh.
All right, folks. Well, as you can see, the little segment took a little turn for the worse here. So I'm just going to start over and just so you can see the whole tutorial uninterrupted. Okay, so let's just kind of recap here. What I did is I made an oval selection over the teacup. And then I went under the select menu to feather. I'm going to hit it with about a 15 pixel feather. Now, create a brand new layer to put this steam on. And what you'll do is go under the filter menu, go down to render, and go to clouds. Now you can see it creates that cloudy texture inside there. One thing you can do is just hit Control F and Command F on a Mac to kind of add more to the texture. It adds more of that white and more of that black cloudy area to that selection here. So that's what I just did. And then you can deselect. Now one thing I've noticed is if you can spread this out more, the effect comes out better. So I'm going to go to Filter, Blur. I'm going to add a motion blur to this. So choose Motion Blur from the Blur submenu. And you want to make sure you choose 90 degrees or negative 90, just as long as the angle is straight up and down. And hit it with about an 80 pixel distance. And just click OK. And that blurs it a little bit. Then we'll go to Filter. We'll run that Wave Distort filter on this. And what that's going to do is it's going to just give it that little wavy feel. And what I suggest is to just rewind and just pause and grab these settings because there's too many of them to rattle off right now. But just add that wave filter, and now we've got kind of that wispy steam look to it, that smoky look. But the problem is it does look too much like smoke. You can see it's very gray inside here. So what we want to do is we want to get rid of that. So the first thing I'll do is let's bring this in a little bit. I'll press Control T to bring up Free Transform, and let's bring it in so it stays over the cup. And the other thing I'll do is add some more contrast. When I say contrast, I mean I want to add some more whites and blacks to this. I want to make the whites pop out more and the blacks pop out. So go to Levels. Oh, sorry, I just jumped into Levels. I didn't tell you. Press Control L, Command L on the Mac, and go into Levels. Bring that black slider right to where that little mountain starts, and bring the white slider to the same place. Now you can see the difference. If I preview, that's without and that's with levels. So we did add some more contrast in there. Click OK, and now change this blend mode from normal to hard light, and now you can see it hides away a lot of that gray area but still gives us the white steamy look. And the only thing you might want to do is kind of erase away any of the bottom area. I showed you that little trick. You could double click on the layer, bring up the layer style dialog, and if you Alt or Option click on the black slider, it splits it, and you can bring it over to the right and take a look at what's happening here. That's if I don't do anything, and that's if I do. So it starts to blend some of that into the background more, so that helps out. And then the last thing I'd suggest here, maybe drop the opacity down a little bit, or even if it looks like that one right down there, that one looks just a little bit too harsh for me. So let's zoom in on it a little bit. That looks a little bit too harsh for me, so what I can do is just run a little bit of a Gaussian blur filter on it. Not much, just maybe 1 or 2 pixels on it. And you can see that's before and that's after, so you can see it does kind of blur that up a little bit and make it look a little bit more realistic. And again, don't forget to drop the opacity down. And that gives you just a nice little steam effect coming off of that cup there. The last thing you might want to do, duplicate the layer, and you can see that intensifies it, and that might be the look you're going for. Or go into Free Transform, Control T, and if you right click or control click inside that box and you flip it, now I get 2 of them inside here, and then I can just transform this one to my liking as well, and I can create a whole nother little kind of a wisp of steam coming off of there, and you drop the opacity down so it doesn't look too harsh. But now you can really start to adjust the effects just by duplicating that layer over and over again and just changing the way it looks with Free Transform.
You know what? Let's just go to a break.
Yes.
We'll be back in just a few minutes.
We'll regroup and come back after this brief message from someone important, I'm sure.
Home Dock Deluxe, the essential entertainment center for the iPod. Enjoy all of your music, pictures, and video right on your TV and home stereo system. Home Dock Deluxe is the only iPod dock with on-TV navigation of your iPod's music. Nothing is better than browsing your tunes on your TV with remote in hand. The 18-button remote and on-TV navigation of your music makes the Home Dock Deluxe the only choice for your living room. DLO Home Dock Deluxe, where your iPod lives at home.
We're back, and I've got a retouching tip I brought this week. But before I get to that, Matt is going to finish up with his Steam tutorial.
Steamy tutorial.
All right, so there we are.
Well, hey everybody, as you can imagine, the second part of the tutorial took the same bad turns that the first one did. So instead of putting you through all of that, I'll just do it after the fact, and we'll get through the tutorial all in one shot. All right, and I got to admit, it started out with just a bad joke about if this image wasn't your cup of tea, then maybe this would be. So I apologize for that, but I had to get it in there. All right, so now what we're going to do is we've got just kind of an outdoor shot here. Let's say you want to spice it up with just a little bit of kind of that morning mist, that steam and vapor that comes off of a lake, or just any type of a landscape shot. It can really help add to a dramatic effect that you're going for here. So what we'll do is we'll start off, we'll create our new layer, and it's basically the same steps as before, except this time instead of using an oval, I'll use a rectangle and draw the rectangle there, but we're still going to feather it. Select feather, 15 pixels, and then we're going to go run that same render clouds filter on it, and I might hit Control F to run it one more time. So we run twice, and then I'll deselect, and then we're still going to blur it like we did. So filter, blur, motion blur, and remember you want it to go up and down, so 90 degrees or -90, set 80 as your distance. And now we'll run that wave filter on it. So filter, distort, go down to wave. And the same settings, I've got the same as before. So I just hit OK once, and I'm going to press Control F to apply it one more time. So now we get this really funky looking object, but we'll fix that. The very first thing I'll do is let's change that blend mode from normal. Let's get it down to hard light so we get more of that, we get that gray smoke out of it. Now, the easy way to fix this is we like a lot of the white parts inside here, but the ugly black parts kind of don't really fit. So we can, the really easy way to fix it is just grab your eraser tool and just select a real large, one of the soft brushes inside here, and then just erase away those areas, because we don't want everything in there, especially at the bottom. We don't want it to be coming down here. We really want it to be over this area right here. And just erase away any of those areas that you don't like. So that's part one. Now the rest of the steps is really very similar to what we did last time. We can double click on the layer. We can hold down the Alter Option key in the layer style dialog here, and we can just drag that black, split that black slider and drag it over. That's before, that's after, and what we've did is just make it interact with the background more. And then maybe drop the opacity down a little bit. Now, the way, remember at the end of the last tutorial, I duplicated that layer and I said you could do that if you wanted to. Here is where I recommend it. So Control J to duplicate it. And now we have two of them here. Now what I want to do here is just flip this one the other way. So instead of doing all those steps all over again that I just did, let's just do the same thing but just flip it. And I'll press Control T. Go into free transform, and if you right click or control click on a Mac inside there, you get flip horizontal. So just flip it the other way, move it around. What's great about this is you can stretch it. Okay, so you get a varied effect. You're not going to get a repeating effect by doing this. You can stretch it, you can squish it together, you can make it taller here. And let's go ahead and do that. Hit enter when you're done, and instead of hard light, try a couple of the other blend modes over here. Overlay may work. It'll kind of make it look a little bit brighter. But what I found here is that vivid light might tend to work too. You see how it kind of brings out some of the color back here. You might try linear light. I think linear light actually works a little bit better than hard light right here. So let's stick with linear light on this duplicate layer. And then again, we'll drop the opacity down just a little bit. And then do the same thing over again. Duplicate the layer, Control J, go into free transform mode, and then you can right click or control click inside here, flip it horizontal, and then let's just move it around. And what you want to do here is take a look at any spots that look empty. Over here looks a little bit empty, kind of down here in this area looks a little bit empty. So let's try to position this new layer in that area to see if we can fill some of that in. And then we'll squish that together a little bit. We will leave it right about there. There we go. Hit enter. I'm going to show you another little trick too. First, let's erase away. See that little hard edge we have? So let's erase that away. The other trick is go to Filter, Blur, and instead of running that vertical motion blur on it, run a horizontal motion blur. Let's move the dialog to the side so you can see what it's doing. That's before, that's after. So now we can spread this horizontally across the photo. And then again, experiment with your blend modes. I either suggest hard light or overlay or linear light. All seem to work pretty well, and I'll leave that one at linear light as well. So now we've kind of got that that steamy kind of morning mist look to it. Now there's one more trick to do here. I'm going to select all three of these layers. So shift click on one, shift click on the other, and press Control G, and it groups them all together. Here's one more added bit of realism to this. Add a layer mask to the group. So we click on the little layer mask icon down here, and it puts a layer mask on the group. Now what we do is if we paint with black and white on this layer mask, we can show and hide parts of everything in here, all three of these layers at the same time. Instead of applying it to one layer at a time, we do it to all three because they're in a group. So I'm going to go to Filter, Render, and remember, don't forget to click on that layer mask to target it. Go to Filter, Render, go down to Clouds, and now take a look here. What I'm going to do is shift click on this layer mask, and it'll hide it, and then it'll show it. And what that cloudy texture on that layer mask is doing is it's a mixture of black and white. So it's randomly showing and hiding parts of this texture that we see on here, so it doesn't look too fake, it doesn't look too uniform and too repeated. And you could always adjust and just blur and play with that layer mask to get a very different effect on here. But again, that's before and that's after. So that really helps out just to kind of finish the technique off.
Yay! Yay, Steam! Okay. I brought you a tutorial. Yes, I did. This one is a portrait retouch, and we're going to use one of the tools that Matt used. Although Matt used every single tool in Photoshop to do that tip, I'm only going to use just a couple. So let's go ahead and get going here. I'm going to start by, let's go to the Layers palette, is you create a new blank layer, and then you draw a rectangle over the part like this. You go under the Filter menu, under Render, and choose Clouds. Oh, I'm sorry, that's your tip.
Hey.
I was adding steam. Gosh, you know, once you see that,
You just want to steam everything.
You want to add steam to everything. All right, here we go. Let's take a look at the portrait we have here. And the thing is, I always have people ask me, how do you know what to retouch on a person? Well, honestly, there is no international committee for exactly what you're supposed to retouch. You have to look at the photo and see what changes that you personally would make. Looking at this photo, I would probably make an adjustment to her eyes look a little big to me. Now, the person that originally retouched this photo, because this is a stock photo, may have tried to make her eyes look bigger, because that's a pretty common retouch. So, but in my case, I think her eyes look a little too big. So if it were me, here are the things that I would do. I would make her eyes smaller. I would probably make her nose a little smaller. When you do that, her lips are going to look unnaturally large, so I'd probably make her lips a little smaller. I'd probably make her ears a little smaller. And it appears to me that her head is a little pointy. So I think I would fix that as well. And I can do most of that all in one dialog box, believe it or not. We're going to go under the Filter menu, under the Filter menu, just choose Liquify. Now, a lot of people think of Liquify as doing really silly stuff, but it can be a great tool for retouching. Go down right here on a little toolbar on their side, and there's two really important tools. One is called Bloat, and one is called, it's either Pucker or Pinch. I can't remember. Which is it, Dave? You would know.
I believe it's Pinch.
I believe it is Pinch. Thank you, Dave. That's a unsolicited testimonial from Dave Cross, the Canadian warlord. And so what we're going to do is I'm going to basically go over. I'll start with her eyes first. Now, although you could consider this a painting tool, I generally click with this. And one of the reasons why I like to click with it is because I can count how many clicks I did, so I can apply the same setting to one eye as I do to the other. So I'm going to go to this eye, and I'm going to make my brush a little bigger than the eye, and I'm just going to click maybe 3 times. Let's go 1, 2, 3 to shrink her eye. I can see that 3 clicks is a bit too much. Let's undo that. Luckily, the Liquify does have an undo, so we'll press Command-Z on a Mac, or you'd press Control-Z on a PC. And let's actually use the history undo, which is Option Command Z, get us back to where we started. There we go. So we pressed Option Command Z on a Mac or Alt Control Z on a PC 3 times. So now let's try it again. Let's just go like 1, 2. That's better. 1, 2, and kind of get her eyes down to size. Is it just me, or does that eye look a tad bigger than this eye?
It does look
It looks a tad.
A tad.
Let's try just one more click over here. Now, is it just me?
No,
or does that eye look a little smaller than this eye? You know what? There's a bigger problem here. Let's move on. All right, so her eyes are closer to where they should be. Now let's do her nose. Let's just go a little bigger here. And her nose. Let's try clicking in the center. 1, 2, 3. Then I'll move the little cursor to the middle over this nostril. 1, 2. And over in this nostril. 1, 2. And let's take a look. I think that we could use a little nostralization still. Let's go 1, 2, 3. 1, 2. 1, 2. There we go. That nose is kind of down to size. Now I might do a little pucker right up here. 1, 2. Make it a little smaller up there. That's a pretty lovely nose right there, isn't
I'd say it is.
I'm like 16 clicks from a perfect nose. Now her lips are giant. Well, take a look at her lips are bigger than her nose and her eyes put together. So let's do the same thing. Let's make the a little smaller here. We're going to 1, 2, 3. Then over here 1, 2, 3, and then over here 1, 2, 3. I'm just clicking. She could use a couple more clicks, I believe. She's a few clicks short of a perfectly sized mouth. Okay. Now, you might say, Matt's the kind of guy to go, it's a pretty big gap between the old nose and the mouth there. We could fix
I would never say anything.
We could fix that later. So how about the ears? We could do the same thing here. Click, click, click. There's 3 clicks. 1, 2, 3 to just pucker them in a little bit. Now, so we're getting there. Now the top of her head is still pointy. I'm going to switch up here to the tool that I call the
Pointy finger tool.
The pointy finger tool. I always call it the tool at the top. And I'm going to basically pat her head down a little bit with this tool. So you're just going to come in here and go, just kind of pat her head down a bit so it's not so crazy.
Oh, that looks
I
good.
want a little crazy. Hold on, let's undo a couple of steps there.
The dent looks nice.
Well, you have to work with it a little bit.
No.
He's getting me back for his. Hey, be careful! I'll add some steam to this so fast. There'll be a whole layer of steam on her. It really won't matter what you do from there because she'll be in the steam. So, all right. So there we're rounding her head off a little bit, and you might want to take a little more care. That's certainly better. All right. So is there anything else we need here? We did her lips, we did her nose, we did her eyes, we did her ears. We did it all in one dialog box. Let's go ahead and click OK. And it'll apply those changes. Now I'm going to do an undo and a redo. So what you're seeing me do is undo and then redo. Watch the difference. Here's the original, and there's the after. If you do it fast back and forth, watch. Sorry, I do that for Dave Cross because he so enjoys that. Hey Dave, check it out. Okay, so but you can see we had a pretty big difference there. Now there is somewhat of a gap here. There is something you could do. She is on a white background, so what you could do is basically pick her up here. All right, let's feather that area. Let's put like 10 pixels might be a bit big. Let's try a 5 pixel, and let's put it up on its own layer. Let's press Shift, let's just do Command J. So it puts a copy of just that part of her head up there. And let's see if we can just get the Move tool, and using the arrow key on my keyboard, scoot her down a little bit. Look at that. We're shrinking the old nosalization there. So look at that. So you can see, watch. Whoa, hey, how you doing, eh? Sorry. This is a show gone mad. All right. Now, one other thing that you might do at this point is let's go ahead and just, her face looks a little round. Let's go ahead and narrow up her face a little bit. And there's a great trick for this. Press Command A to select all. On PC, of course, it would be Control A, and go to Free Transform. Free Transform is Command T on a Mac or Control T on a PC. Now I'm going to zoom in so you can see this area. I want you to look where my cursor is right up here. This basically shows the width of your selection and the height of your transform. So width and height. I'm going to take the width down to where it reads about 95%. That's about how much you can get away with thinning people, because it does thin them without it being too obvious. So let's slide to the right, and as I'm sliding over, if you're watching this on an iPod, it's going to be kind of small. So I'll zoom in, but watch, I'm moving this over to about 95%. In fact, you can go a little further if you want, because hers was pretty round. How about like right there? That looks pretty good. 94.3. I'm going to show you for those of you watching on your iPod. See, there it is, 94.3. So we basically just dragged the left corner in, and then we'll have to hit return. Now you're going to have to recrop the photo, or enter actually to lock it in. Then you're going to have to hit crop there to do it. Now we'll do one last thing. The lighting on her is kind of flat, so we're going to do a little quick trick. There's a couple different things you could do to enhance the lighting. One of them would be simply to duplicate the layer, switch to multiply mode, okay, which makes it really, really way too dark. And then what we're going to do is we're going to hold the Option key on Mac, the Alt key on PC. We're going to click right there. I'm going to zoom in so you can see. I can't zoom in. Just pretend I did. Well, I'm holding too many keys down to zoom in. Well, how about I do this? There we go. We're going to click that right there, the layer mask icon. I don't know if I can get that. There it is, the world's largest layer mask icon. Click right there, Option click right there, and it hides it behind this black mask. All right, so there's a darker version of her hidden behind this black mask. We're going to switch our foreground color to white. We're going to grab a really huge brush, and by really huge I mean even bigger than that. And we're just, not that big. not 300, not 200, 250. And we're basically going to paint a stroke right across her face there, and then right across her shoulder here. Now it looks really, really bad because it's really, really saturated. But what we're going to do is lower the opacity until it looks a little more like a lighting effect, something like that. So look at the difference here. It was kind of flat before. We're going to add just a little bit of lighting. That's even a little hot right there. Now, if you think multiply looks too harsh, here's another way to do it real quick. Do the same thing, but just use a curves adjustment layer and just kind of maybe bring the midtones down a little bit. Something like that. That looks a little better. Something like that. Then what we're going to do is change the mode from normal to luminosity so you don't get so much of a color shift, more of a tonal shift like that. Then what you can do is let's press Command I, or on PC Control I, to hide that darker version behind the mask, and then we can do the same reveal here. Let's do one across this eye, then one across here, and then we're just going to lower the opacity to dial in our lighting effect on her face, something like that. And then you can see a before and after. It just makes it a little more dramatic. Now, let's do this. Now that we've finished the technique here, we can flatten. I'm going to, we don't need to show the rulers, I'm going to duplicate this image so you can see a before and after. So over here will be the after. Let me close the layers palette right there, and then I will show you the before by reverting this to the original. So here is the before and after, side by side. You can see we've done quite a bit of work from here to here. Here, she is attractive. Here, she's fantastic. Look at the difference here. She's fantastic. But her head's a little shorter. Did you notice that? Mm-hmm. It's a little shorter.
Just a tad.
All right, so there we can have a little quick, a little portrait retouch for you. Well, we're retouching portraits. We're adding steam. We're turning footballs into art. Choppy, pointy. All right, let's go to the news. Standing by right now in the steamy Photoshop news section is our co-host, Matt Kloskowski. He's over there right now, ready to give you the news.
He is.
Let's go there now.
This week's news is sponsored by Peach Pit Press. Visit peachpit.com/PhotoshopTV where you can get a Photoshop book for 35% off and free shipping in the U.S. So go check it out. Okay, first up this week, MrClipping.com has released a whole new set of clipping paths for Photoshop. So these clipping paths essentially will isolate an object from its background, and they've got a whole bunch of them on their website. Just go to MrClipping.com. Next, Alien Skin Software has also released a brand new plugin called Blow Up. Now, this plugin is both for Photoshop and for Photoshop Elements, and it's designed to take low quality or low size images and make them larger for print or any type of large format output. So you can go to alienskin.com for more information And finally, Adobe has updated many of their Photoshop white papers. So if you go to their website, you'll find white papers that deal with anything from image sharpening, curves, DNG, camera raw, and they're written by industry experts such as Jeff Shiwi, also Bruce Fraser. One thing though, by the way, Bruce Fraser has also released a brand new book called Real World Image Printing. It's by Peach Pit Press, so you can go there and check that out. As well, you can get the white papers at adobe.com. That's it for the news this week. Back to Adobe Photoshop TV right after this short break.
We are back. Scott Kelby here. Joining me, Mr. Dave Cross and Matt Kloskowski. He's got beside me. All righty. Hey, speaking of Dave Cross being beside me, Dave has got a new book. Of course, you probably heard about it, Photoshop Finishing Touches. It's burning up the bookshelves. And in fact, last week, or was it yesterday? It was just a couple of days ago. It was not just the number 5 of all Photoshop books on Amazon.com. It was number 5 of all computer and internet books across all categories. So that book is on fire, man. You know what it needs? A little like mist or something would be nice. Some steam.
Ooh, let me go do that.
Yeah, let's add that. So anyway,
I see how you guys are.
Photoshop Finishing Touches by Dave Cross. It's his brand new book. Go check it out. You can buy it, of course, at Amazon. You can buy it at BarnesandNoble.com. You can actually walk into a Barnes & Noble and buy it. You can buy wherever fine Photoshop books are sold.
In fact, there's one extra bonus that we actually have a website called PhotoshopFinishingTouches.com where you can actually take a look inside the book and download the table of contents and see what it's all about. So
it just never ends.
Now, speaking of books, you have one that I'm sure will soon be up on the charts when it actually hits the shelves. Is coming up very shortly.
I hope so. It's not a Photoshop book. It's a book totally on Steam effects. It's a book for digital photographers. It's called, I have a great name for it, ready? The Digital Photography Book. It's actually called the Digital Photography Book. And basically it's not about Photoshop, it's how to get better photos. And the idea from it became, I always get these people that talk to me at conferences and email me and say, man, I had this like 3 megapixel camera and I was kind of getting disappointing images. So I went and got an 8 megapixel camera, and now I get 8 megapixel photos I'm disappointed with. And what I realized was, of course, we can do a lot of great things in Photoshop after the fact to finish the photos. But a lot of things you can do in the camera makes your life so much easier. So it's basically, the book is written as if you and I were like out on a shoot. Not you and I, of course. You and I are out on a shoot.
I just do Steam.
Yeah, no, if I want to do a Steam effect. But you and I are on a shoot, and you ask me a question, I answer it right back. I don't give you the theory of anything. I just basically say, here's how to do it. Here's what button to push. Here's what to click. Bang, bang, bang.
Very cool. And it's basically set up where you just look at the effect. Right, on each page there's
it's like, I show like how to get this type of shot, how to get this type of thing.
Very
cool.
It's
very cool. It's called the Digital Photography Book. It's not out yet. It'll be out any day now, though. So you can pre-order it at ScottKelbyBooks.com, Amazon.com, BarnesandNoble.com, Now,
all those things.
Hey, I want to talk to you about one other thing. Of course, Photoshop World is right around the corner now. We're going to be there doing a live sessions. Of course, we're teaching, but we're also doing a live episode of Photoshop TV. So we hope if you're coming to Photoshop World out in Las Vegas, September 7th through 9th at the Mandalay Bay Resort and Convention Center. We'll be there. Also, of course, we have the Guru Awards, which are very, very popular, and Matt has talked about them. We have a special category in the Guru Awards not a lot of people know about, and it's very, very cool. It is it's the Vinny Award, the Vincent Versace Award for Excellence in Digital Photography. It's presented by Vincent Versace himself, and if you win that award, now, well, let me just tell you before you win, if you enter into the photography category of the Guru Awards, at Photoshop World. Now, the Guru Awards are just for people who actually attend Photoshop World. So you're a Photoshop World attendee, you can enter this contest for free. So you're only competing against the other people at Photoshop World. Everyone that enters the photography category is eligible to win the Vinny. If you win the Vinny, you get an Epson Photo Stylus R2400, my favorite printer in the world. You win that. No, you cannot win the contest, Dave. But for those of you who are allowed to be in the contest, if you win, not only do you get the Versace Award itself, and you get a signed print from Vincent Versace himself, you also get the fabulous printer courtesy of our friends at Epson, and it is my favorite printer in the world.
Very
so cool. Sits right there on my desk. So great, you don't actually get my printer, you get the same kind of printer. And anyway,
send them your printer too.
The Versace Awards coming up at Photoshop World. If you haven't signed up for Photoshop World, it's not too late. Go to photoshopworld.com. Now, the end of every show, we like to leave you.
We can't end yet, though.
No, because there would be a contest.
There'd be a
first.
People would be like, "Where's the contest? Where's the contest?"
Yes, the contest. We had a contest last week.
We did have a contest.
We had a tricky one last week.
I had a tricky question. The question last week was, where do you find an option called clumped? And it's actually a filter under the texture set of filters called grain. And in there, there's a pop-up menu of all sorts of weird and wonderful options, one of which was clumped. So there you go.
Right next to Steam?
Right next, and the Steam did not appear on that list, I don't think. But
well, wouldn't it be great if there was one of those? Maybe CS3 will have that.
Yeah, it could be. And from the huge list of people, we drew this person as the lucky winner. How about that?
All right, Dave, what's this week's question?
Well, I could give the question, or we'd like to tell them maybe the prizes first before we give them the question. How would you like to do it?
Sure, why not?
I'm happy to do it either way. Let's do the prizes first, shall we? So they get all excited about what they get.
First, if you may be lucky enough to win. I'm aiming this at the camera, so it kind of... The Best of Photoshop TV DVD. This 11-hour DVD. No, it's the highlights from our first season, and you can win this. If you don't win it, you can go get it at PhotoshopTV.com. And this is by Matt Kloskowski. It's a DVD called Adobe Illustrator CS2 101. You win this too. You win a 1-year membership to the this thing. And this is the big one, a full conference pass to the Photoshop World Conference and Expo coming up here. So full conference pass. You don't get to just see some sessions, all the sessions.
September 6th through 9th or something like that.
7th through 9th.
Well,
pre-conferences, yes.
6th.
Pre-conferences.
All right, with all that wonderful prize package that people are aching to win, let's get to this week's question, shall we? And the question is, how do you increase the number of files that appear in the recent items list? Mm-hmm. So when you go to File, Recent Items, you'll see a little list. How do you make that list longer? And go to PhotoshopTV.com and look for the little link to enter the contest. Enter once, and as always, good luck.
All right, Dave, I'm afraid to say what's next because you'll interrupt me and go, shouldn't you first do the blank, blank, blank? So, Dave, say something now.
What's next, Dave?
What's next, Dave?
I think we should do that every week when we give people something to do.
Yes, how many things do we give them to do, Matt?
Well, don't you think you should go first?
I was just asking a question.
I'll go first because I want to.
Go ahead, please.
I am going to talk about I'm going to look down. There we go. Check out PhotoshopForVideo.com. This is a podcast by Mr. Rich Harrington. And he's got a podcast on guest Photoshop for video. So Rich is a great instructor. If you haven't seen him teach yet, you owe it to yourself to check it out. So do it.
Very good. Mine is a website that is dedicated to creating steam. It's steammaker.com. No. Actually, I'm going to recommend that you go to layersmagazine.com and go to their forums. If you're interested in other things besides Photoshop, of course, there is a Photoshop forum, but there's also forums on all the creative suites. So if you're interested in Adobe Illustrator or Adobe InDesign or any of the cool Adobe products, go to layersmagazine.com and check out the forums, because if you're looking for help and advice with other products in the creative suite and in Adobe's sphere of influence, go check it out. It's got aces in the forums, and by aces I mean Adobe certified experts in the forums all the time. It's a very, very fast growing community. If you want to interact with other users and get help, layersmagazine.com. Right.
Well, I have a place for you to go. It's a blog. It's from John Knack, who's a product manager for Photoshop. If you go to blogs.adobe.com/jknack, John just collects a great collection of things. It's quite a collection of
Yes,
everything you
of
can
things.
imagine. Videos, links, news, and information directly from our friends at Adobe. So
Lots
check
of
that out.
collecting.
Lots of great stuff there.
Yeah, John's blog is one that you go to every day. It's one I actually stop by every day. Hey, as you've noticed right now, we're on a budget, and we can obviously afford only a finite amount of tape. Because if we had a budget for more tape, certainly we'd redo these things, wouldn't we? But we don't. We're one tape. Hey, I have good news for you. Show's over. On behalf of myself and Matt Stevie Klaskowski, whose tip definitely rocked the housey, wouldn't you say?
Yeah.
And our fine friend from Canada, Mr. Dave Cross.
Goodbye.
We'll see you guys next week, or probably not, right here on Adobe Photoshop TV.
Thanks for watching Adobe Photoshop TV. See you next week.